Self-love is where all healing begins. We are with Ellen Newhouse today. She's healer, author, and host of her Heart and Soul podcast. Be with us till the end. We have great conversation together. Oh my goodness. Today is going to be a great day. I'm going to say hi everyone, and hello to Ellen Newhouse. She's a healer, as I said. She also do acupuncture and voice healing, right?
Yes, absolutely.
I love
Sound
what she did
healing.
for me. Yeah, last show we had together, actually, she had me in her podcast, and she gave me some sound healing, which I love it. That
Oh,
was the first time I had it.
I love that.
Yeah,
How did you feel after that?
I love it. It's like
Oh,
very magical. Like I can't describe it. So, Ellen, how did you start your own healing journey first?
mm.
And why
Well,
did you become acupuncture? Yeah.
yes. Well, I did not start it. In fact, I was talking about this today. I did not start it from a place of, oh, yes, I want to heal. I started from a place of, oh my goodness, I can't breathe. So I had a lung issue in which I couldn't breathe. And I spent 2 years in the Western medical models, seeing lots of doctors and taking lots of medicine. And to my good fortune, none of it worked. And why I say good fortune is because at the end of that 2 years, I went to see a specialist and he said, oh, we have very good news and very bad news. I said, great, give me both. And he said, well, the good news is we have a solution. And I leaned in and he said, we are going to give you an oxygen tank. Now, this is not a solution. And I was only 28 years old. Now, you see how much energy I have now, and I'm a lot older, and I had way more energy. And the idea of being hooked up to an oxygen tank was unthinkable. So I
So, what
went
was your
home.
problem? Sorry.
Yeah, the problem was I couldn't breathe.
Oh, so you had asthma or something?
No, we didn't know what they treated me for everything they could think to treat me, asthma, and the medication would work for 2 minutes and then it was gone. Treat me for some bizarre kind of shingles, that medicine would work for 2.5 seconds and then it was gone. So in the end, it was undiagnosed. They didn't know what was wrong. We could all agree that I wasn't breathing optimally. And I believe what it really was in the end was that my body was saying, enough. I cannot hold this pain that you keep shoving down, because as we discussed the last time, I had a very, very traumatic childhood. And in order to survive, I did what many, many people do to survive, is I push it down, push it down, push it over away, push it over away. It doesn't exist. And I only see the best things. And so I create a pseudo reality. But the body doesn't, the body keeps score, you know? And at some point, I think my body was just saying, I cannot hold this pain anymore. I'm done. And you now have to deal with it. So when I got that prognosis, I did the only thing I could think to do. And I went home and I got on my hands and knees and I prayed to God. And this was the beginning of the rest of my life. So that's how I began my healing journey. And I had no interest. I was working very happily in the corporate world. I had no interest in healing. And this all happened at a time when healing didn't exist. You know, it happened in the early 1980s. And so it was a very odd thing to go through when there weren't healers that like exist today, you know? And so it was a very trying time, a very lonely time, a very confusing time. And it was told to me that I would become an acupuncturist many, many years before I became an acupuncturist. And I laughed out loud. I was like, no, I have no interest in being a healer, an acupuncturist. No, no, no. Anyway, so my healing journey began when I was 26, and I eventually went and got my master's in acupuncture and oriental medicine when I was 36. And it the way in which I became an acupuncturist is even funnier. So I was doing healing work. So from 26 to 31, I was on this incredible healing journey. I didn't work. I had to just be working on myself physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally. And at the end of those 5 years, I said, all right, I feel well enough. I can go back to work. What am I going to do? So I thought, well, I was very good in high level sales. I'll do that. And I made appointments, I made interviews, and at every single interview, I began to have all the same symptoms. So I went back to my guy, God, and I said, God, listen, I understand you're giving me a message, but what do you want me to do? And I heard, you need to be a healer. Well, I cried for a month because I didn't grow up with the word healer. There was doctors, there was lawyers, there were nurses, no healers. So I said, well, what do you want me to do? Like what is this thing? So I struggled for a month. And at the end of a month, one night at 3 a.m., I said to God, I said, here's the deal, God. All right, I'm going to make a deal. I'm going to cut a deal with you. I'm going to open an office and you bring me the people. I'll do my best. Believe me, Panti, I never imagined in a million years that this would work. So I was living in New York City. I went and found the most affordable place I could find, which happened to be in the antique district. I opened an office and I said to God, now you have to bring me people. And my phone began to ring. And it has never stopped ringing. And so I was like, oh gosh, people are coming. Now what am I going to do? So I asked God, now what am I going to do? He said, you're going to sit down. You're going to receive the people, ask them their birthday, and then you just open your mouth and the words will come. And so that's how I actually began my healing practice many, many years before I became an acupuncturist.
That's interesting. I don't know how you did it. And I know you also do sound healing.
Yes,
Was it that
yes,
time that you started sound healing as well?
yes. So within about 6 weeks of doing let's call it, for lack of a better word, channeling, um, I got very disenchanted. Maybe it was more, maybe it was 8 weeks, 12 weeks, whatever it was. Because what I found was that people kept coming and coming for information. And I said, well, what have you done with the information you got a week ago or 2 weeks ago? Nothing. I'm like, why are you coming? You're wasting your time. And like, what are you doing? So I went back to God and I said, listen, here's the thing. I am not going to do this. I am not going to be everyone's greatest addiction. So show me another way to work. And so then the guides that work with me began to show me how to do hands-on healing. And then they always said, okay, now you give them homework to do. So nobody ever leaves my office without homework to do. And then shortly thereafter, I was working one day on somebody's body and I heard, now put this sound into that person's knee. And I said, no way. This is where no, absolutely not. Because I had many issues about my voice. I didn't think I had a nice voice. And the idea of singing into someone's body seemed outrageous to me. So then I got these outrageous headaches. And finally, when I connected the headaches to my unwillingness to use the sound, I realized, oh, all that energy was backing up into my head. So I said, okay, teach me how to do this. So the guides that work with me trained me in sound healing. And so I do exactly, I have never been trained otherwise. Because when I came through this healing journey and this healing path, there weren't schools. Today, there are schools. You can go and study massage, you can go study Reiki and polarity therapy, you can go study sound healing. But when I came through my journey, there were no schools. So the guides from other um, layers of consciousness trained me. So today I still do the same work. I just have a few more tools.
It's so great to see that you were connected to your intuition and you
Mm,
could hear what your unconscious mind saying, because
mm,
that's the one we always block. I was editing another interview today
mm,
for the podcast
mm-hmm.
about the PTSD.
Ah,
I know not everybody believe that mental problem or emotion can
mm.
affect your physical problem.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
I
Yes,
mean,
yes, yes.
physical can
Yeah.
affect and create a lot of physical issues.
Yeah.
And when the doctor is saying, like usually naturopathy doctor or people who are working with PTSD,
Mm-hmm.
going through the assessment with the patient, first of all,
Mm-hmm.
not all of them talk about their emotion, not all of them talk about their PTSD, because
Sure.
they think that maybe medicine can heal them, something fast,
Mm.
something just the drug or something that can make a miracle for them.
Yeah.
But as you said, you're right. If you are open enough to
Mm.
hear your conscious mind, unconscious mind, and to hear what you have to do, then you can also see the hidden layers in your body and in
Mm.
your emotions. Maybe you have PTSD, maybe you have a trauma in childhood. Every each of them, I mean, each of them can actually affect your physical health as
Oh,
well. Yeah.
absolutely. And I want to say something about that because often I think there is a misunderstanding that people draw a line. This is Western medicine, this is all holistic medicine, alternative, Eastern medicine, whatever you want to call it. And the truth is, all medicine exists because they work in a different way. So I always speak to people about, well, have you seen a doctor? And they look at me, what do you mean, have I seen a doctor? So I integrate both Western medicine and Eastern medicine together, in that for me, I don't hold a judgment that one is better than the other. It is the different tools. So if I'm working with somebody, for example, and I can feel that there is a much deeper problem, and I want, let's say, validation, and also because of my licensure, I am required to do it by law. But I work this way always, even before I had this license. And I will say, you need to go see a doctor. I want this and this and this checked, and please send me the results. And what is wonderful about working in partnership with both Western doctors and Eastern doctors is that then you have a full picture. And eventually, I believe in the United States, you will see both, all kinds of medicines under the same roof. Um, right now, there's still political issues, but eventually, all over the world, we will combine these medicines because they're very important. And, like we have different religions because people hear God in different ways. So we have different medicines. It's some people are ready for one thing and then another person's ready for another.
I completely agree. Like going back to fertility topic that we're going to talk,
Yes.
there are lots of clients, my clients, that they really believe in IVF.
Yep.
And as I'm saying, IVF is not a bad treatment because it's science based, right?
Right.
But the problem is, are you ready for that treatment?
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, do you have any underlying issues? As you said, like you may have a lot of things
Mm.
that blocking your healing. So,
Yes.
if as soon as you remove those blockers, then the treatment works. So that's why we need holistic medicine, because it can fill the gap
Hmm.
between conventional and actually muddy and mind and body.
Yeah.
So this way, if your mind and body is connected, they can actually order each other. They can actually follow the healing process together.
Yes, and what is so amazing is whatever we think and believe is what becomes so. So if somebody believes in IVF, that this is the medicine that is going to get me pregnant, so it does. It's beautiful. And if somebody doesn't believe it's going to help, then it doesn't. It's so beautiful that we can watch our minds and really learn a lot about ourselves. So when I work with women who are trying to get pregnant, one of the first things I say is, have you made room for this new baby in your life? Have you changed your schedule to accommodate having a new baby? And this people don't even think about. Well, Ellen, I'm so busy. I'm making money. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I'm like, okay, but wait, you say you want a baby, and yet you haven't changed your life. So, how are we going to bring a new being in if we don't make room for it? And so, I think there are so many different reasons that women today struggle with getting pregnant. And it's not always as it seems. I had a woman not too long ago as a patient who was told she would absolutely never get pregnant. She just had her second baby. So, if
May I ask
you,
her what was her problem?
from which perspective?
Physical.
So, why the doctor said that she would never get pregnant has to do with the quality of the eggs.
You can improve the quality of the eggs.
Well, of course, obviously,
Yeah.
she got pregnant and now just had another baby. So, and, there was some thinking that her husband's sperm was very, very slow. In the end, it didn't matter. What mattered was that they did the work that they needed to do to accommodate this new change in their life. Because the way I work is that I work on the mental level, the etheric level, the physical level, the spiritual level, and the emotional level. And sometimes, and I don't like to spend a lot of time here, but sometimes there are past life issues that we are bringing forward as well. And I don't like to spend that much time there because we have so much work to do in this plane. But if it's necessary, then I will look there as well. So, and today I think we are all being asked to grow spiritually. So everything that we want is up for grabs. So if the universe sees, oh, what this person's really wanting is a baby, but they haven't yet done a whole lot of work and they need to do some work, oh, well, suddenly she won't be able to get pregnant very easily. And this will encourage her to do the work. So I think the universe these days is very tricky. And then, of course, there are other levels. There are environmental issues about why women are struggling to get pregnant. And men, frankly, it's not just women's infertility issues. It's also men's infertility issues. The plastics that we have on the planet. they really, the food quality. I mean, there are so many things that affect um, men and women's fertility issues. So,
Exactly, because men and women should work together to have this
yes.
beautiful creation. So
Yeah.
sometimes it's just a burden on the women, which is not okay
Yeah.
because they should work together. So
Yes.
as a healer
Yeah.
and as acupuncturist,
Mhm.
what do you suggest to people who are struggling,
Yeah.
couples actually, not
Couples.
only
Okay.
women, yeah, who
Yeah.
are struggling with fertility?
So the first thing that I would ask is for both of you to take an intake on your own and to ask yourselves the questions. Do I have any resentments of my husband, of my wife? Are there issues between us? Excuse me for a moment. Are there issues between us that are unresolved? Are there issues in my childhood that are unresolved? Do I have a healthy diet? Now, healthy diet is an interesting question because everyone thinks differently about what a healthy diet is, and what a healthy diet is for you is going to be very different than for your friend. So in terms of Chinese medicine, I look when I work with patients about what is their constitution, because each constitution needs a different diet. Some constitutions need to eat meat, other constitutions need to be a vegetarian. So if you don't have an acupuncturist to go to, you can look up books. Oh, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I have a wonderful book that I can recommend. Hold on one moment.
Amazing.
This is, in fact, I just was looking at it. It's a beautiful book. It's called Healing with Whole Foods by Paul Pitchford.
Wow.
And it's a wonderful book. I mean, you can see it's very, very thick. It's filled with information. I would look there for information about a healthy diet for you. Um, so, and on the emotional level, I would look and see, am I afraid to be a mom? Am I afraid to be a dad? It would make sense to me that you are, because if you've never been a parent and you have a little bit of consciousness about you, you know this is the biggest thing you are ever going to do in your life. And it is. And it's scary and it's wonderful. So it's okay. The worst thing that we do as human beings is we deny our own emotions. We say, oh, I can't feel that. No, no, it's not good to feel that. And then we put layers and layers and layers in our body. And then on top of the layers, we have judgment about not feeling or about feeling. And so it gets very, very thick inside of there. And so I would say begin to have a look. Oh, another wonderful book, I'm thinking about this now, is called Loving What Is by Byron Katie. I always get her name turned around. And let's say you're unhappy about the fact that you're not getting pregnant. This is a wonderful book because it talks about accepting what is. So often we don't want to accept what is. And so that drives us more into despair, into grieving. And what if not getting pregnant was the greatest gift anybody could give you? Now, what do I mean by that? So if you're suffering and I'm saying, this is the greatest gift you've ever been given, what I mean by that is this. So often the obstacles that we are come across in our life, that come up right in front of us, is the gift. And while it is not comfortable to go through it, as if we don't resist it, because remember, whatever we resist persists. If we don't resist it and we get curious. Hello, obstacle. So why are you here in my life? What are you here to teach me? And I think, Pantia, this is a good point. I want you to remember it's very hard when we're in a lot of stress, when we're not getting what we want, to imagine that the universe is working against us. I want you to know the universe is working for you. This situation, this obstacle, this challenge you are facing, I promise you, I have seen it in 32 years of being in private practice. I've seen this over and over and over again. This will be the greatest lesson that you will ever learn. It will open you up, if you take it, to becoming the greatest part of yourself. You will grow in a way that heretofore, perhaps you weren't asked to grow that way. And it will be the greatest growth you've ever experienced. And then when you do get pregnant, you will be far more ready to be a wonderful parent. You will appreciate getting pregnant. You will appreciate your birth. You will appreciate the moments that you have with this new baby in a way that perhaps if you easily got pregnant, you would take for granted. So imagine every day that this situation is happening for you. And I think if you hold that like that, things are going to get much easier.
Exactly. Yes. Because sometimes trauma happens to open our eyes.
Yes.
You just go out of your comfort zone to learn so many things.
Oh,
And
yes.
even for myself, when this happened for 2 years, if
Mm-hmm.
it didn't happen and I got pregnant easily, I never had podcasts, I never had my
Right.
books,
Right.
So this way I can help others
Yes.
when they go through that road. And as you said, see the blessing inside. I know for people who are
Yes.
struggling, they
Yeah.
can't listen to it because it's so hard. When
Yes.
you are in the middle of a struggling, you just think, oh, why is not happening? Why is it happens to someone else, but it's not me?
Oh, yes.
These
Yeah.
kind of questions.
Yeah.
The first thing I learned during this timing, if you are jealous or have
Oh,
envy
yes.
about other people's children, then it's not going to happen to you.
You were
So,
reading my mind. You were
yeah, yeah.
reading my mind. Yes.
So what happened to me, we had a friend, a couple friend, and they got pregnant before us. And I felt so happy, instead of
Mm.
saying, oh, why not me? Because I told myself, if it happened to them, it's gonna happen to
Yes.
us too, right? So the
Yes.
point is, you getting the same frequency that they are in, the
Mm.
frequency of happiness, the frequency of receiving. So if you are in that frequency, it's
Mm.
going to happen. But
Yes.
when you are jealous or have, yeah, this is actually natural. You are, because
Mhm.
you don't have it, you are in the frequency of not having it,
Mm.
right? So that frequency hold you back from having it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's so interesting. So, what do you want to receive? The frequency of having, the frequency of blessing, or the
Mhm.
frequency of not having it? So, that's you decide.
Yeah. 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 And frankly, I love jealousy. I celebrate jealousy because it tells us what we want. And so often when we imagine what the other person has, they're not experiencing what you imagine. So it's all in our imaginations anyway. So when you feel jealous, don't deny it. Just say, "Oh, I'm so jealous of that woman. Look, she easily got pregnant walking down the street." You have no idea, but you're imagining it. It's okay. So now I want you to turn it around and imagine yourself getting easily pregnant. Imagine how it feels to have this beautiful belly growing. Imagine what it feels like. And then, very soon, if you stay with that imagination, soon you will get pregnant. I promise.
That was beautiful. So you have a book, right? The
Yes.
author. What is your
Yes.
book? Do you have it with you?
Yes, I do. Can you give me one moment and
Yes,
I'll go
yes,
reach it?
yes,
Hold on one moment.
yes, yes.
I was just going to send this to somebody. It's called Nothing Ever Goes On Here. And I know, oh, there it is. Nothing Ever Goes On Here. And I love the back cover.
Oh,
It's
that's interesting
beautiful.
cover. I never seen such a thing before.
I know, I love it.
Nothing ever goes
Nothing
on
ever
here.
goes on here. Oh, we're getting, look at that, the angels.
Yeah.
um, okay, there it is. Nothing ever goes on here. And it's a memoir of how I overcame my violent childhood and went through a healing crisis and learned about self love and forgiveness. And it's the beginning of the book is definitely hard because you will feel what I felt growing up. But if you stay with it, it's a beautiful story of of really being released out of bondage, as so often we are. And you don't have to have lived through a traumatic childhood, but whatever holds you back, right? And so it's about releasing that and seeing the big picture and being able to forgive everyone involved, including myself, and to love myself and to love my parents who were very challenged, let's say, very, very challenged. My mother, both of them actually were challenged with mental illness. My mother was diagnosed and spent many, many years in and out of institutions and going through shock therapy. My father was, I think, in the end, actually more mentally ill, but because of the time that this took place, men were not. The husband had a lot of power. And so the doctors never did an intake on him. And yet he was the one who turned our life into like a war zone. And he was very violent. He suffered from, I believe, many issues to do with his blood sugar. And I would say in the end, he probably suffered from some kind of a personality disorder. So,
I should read the book.
oh, please do. In
Yeah,
fact, you know
yeah.
what? I was going to send this. There's only 30 hardcovers that were made, and I was going to gift this to somebody. I'm going to gift it to you.
Oh, that's
So
good.
I will
Thank
send it to
you.
you just afterwards. Please send me your home
Yeah,
address.
sure.
Yep. So
Oh,
this one
good.
is for you, my
What a gift.
darling. Yes. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
You are a
Yeah.
gift, actually.
Oh, thank
Talking
you.
to you always give me a lot of energy.
Oh,
Thanks.
good. Oh, good. Well, let's give the people energy. Shall we do a sound healing for
Yes, yes,
bringing
yes,
in the
yes.
babies and bringing in life? Yeah.
Go
Okay.
ahead. Yeah.
So
Sound
for
healing for babies.
so
Okay.
this will be a beautiful sound healing to bring the energy the energy of babies into the womb. And if you're a man listening to this, also know that the energy of this is also about increasing the energy in your sperm. So if there's any issues on that side, you can listen for that reason as well. All right. So I'm just going to, Panti, I'm just going to imagine. I know you don't want to get pregnant right now, but I'm going to use you
Maybe
if
I
that's
get pregnant
okay.
by this sound healing.
Okay, so is it okay if I utilize you? And so for you, just imagine that you will increase your energy. Okay. All right. Ya yama, ya yama, ya yama, ya yama, Iyamaya, iya, oh yama, iyama, iyama, oh ya say ya, hey yama. Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah, ooh yeah, ooh yeah, ooh yeah, yeah, ooh yeah. Yare, 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 yahoo, yare, yahoo, om, and take a nice deep breath.
Whenever you do it, I I feel great,
Oh,
So
good. Well, that
good.
is the point, right? So, how do you feel in your being? Do you feel more energized?
Yeah, I feel I'm gonna have another baby.
So, what was so interesting about this was that
Yeah,
I ended up, it was so beautiful, connecting the heart and the womb together. Wasn't what I intended to start with, but that's what the guides brought. And it was so beautiful. So, I hope all of you listening enjoy having your hearts
yeah,
connected with the heart of the womb.
yes.
So, yeah.
So, Ellen, you have a
Yes.
website here, ellennewhouse.com. What do you have there?
Yes, it says ellennewhouse.com, and that is my website, which is currently under construction. So there may be moments when you go to it and it will not exist, but come back. It will soon be up. And the podcast will also be on the new website. On the current website, you cannot find the podcast, but you can find the podcast currently under Heart and Soul with Ellen Newhouse on all the places where you find podcasts. And soon that will also be renamed, but we'll get there soon. So don't worry about
Great.
it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, so good to hear that because I don't have a website for my podcast. It's everywhere. So
Yes.
I
Yes.
didn't
Yes.
put it
Yes.
in a specific website, but I have to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice to bring everything under one roof in a way. So
Yeah, why not? All
yeah.
right, thank you so much for being here. I really enjoyed,
Um,
especially the part for the sound healing. I always enjoy it. You are
oh,
blessed.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, thanks. Please subscribe to Panta Calhoun Transition channel and order my book Naturally Conceived through Amazon. Thank you for watching.